Does anybody notice there's something on this finger? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome. It's slowly getting spookier and spookier, even if it does feel like we're being cooked alive right now. I know my microphone is like right there, but you know, new setups, man. What are you gonna do? It is nicer though than being on the floor in the living room because my back was killing me after I just posted, or I should be just posting, my first ever makeup tutorial. But in that video, I remember distinctly like my back was killing me, and I think I said it like 5 times in the video and I had to edit everything out. Also, let me just make sure that I don't have black lipstick all over my teeth, because there was a video that I did recently where I'm like talking for like the first half of the video. I've got like green, I think it was a Halloween haul, which is coming. I love this. I hope, like, oh man, it's so frustrating because I have so many gorgeous antique frames like all around me, but you can't see them at all. I hope that maybe I can like lower some right here, especially this guy. He is so handsome. I'll go over it in a different video. I have an antique haul video coming as well. So anyways, I feel like my light just got brighter. Did my light just get brighter to you guys? Did I get lighter looking? There was this girl on YouTube and I used to watch her spooky story. It wasn't like a spooky story time, but basically it was just like a paranormal chats kind of thing. And she believed that the more she spoke about it, the more kind of like haunting things would happen around her. Which, you know, it's been a hot minute since something, I mean, it's been at least, well, no, okay, it hasn't been that long. I feel like weird shit happens all the time. Okay, so let me just get into it. Okay. My name is Valentine. Hello, hi. I am a rambler. Also, does anybody notice there's something on this finger? I'm really excited about it. It is my dream wedding ring. I'll go ahead and insert a picture here. It's the same ring. It's just not, that's not the one I'm wearing. But it is the exact same everything. But anyways, so I'm really excited to have that on my finger, flashing around. Every chance I get, I'm always like, ching, 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 in front of Honey Bun's face. He's like, I know what it looks like. I'm the one who fucking bought it. But I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Anyways, anybody who watches this gets a little sneak peek of the engagement ring. The wedding band is also just so gorgeous. I can't wait to have this set on. I can't wait for him to be able to wear his ring all the time. So yeah, my name is Valentine. Here on my channel, we talk about spooky things. We also get incredibly off topic, as you can see. Or I get incredibly off topic. Today, I wanted to get back into the swing of my spooky story times. I do want to continue this like slumber party Sunday thing. It was probably the thing that made me super excited to film for YouTube, is like, I don't know, I just like it. I miss that. You know, as adults, we don't really practice having slumber parties with our adult friends, and we really should. So yeah, on this channel, we do slumber party Sundays where I just want it to feel like we're hanging out with a friend. And I hope that's how you guys feel when watching my videos, because that's genuinely what I want to create, is just like a place for you to go. I was thinking today we could do something basically like my origin story. Makes me sound like Batman. I don't know why I went to Batman. I feel like there's better superheroes out there. That makes me sound like Sailor Moon. Also, do y'all like my mug? V for Valentine, baby. That's me. And it's got a snake on it. It's perfect. Well, a viper, I guess. That's the whole point. V for Viper. I swear to God, this light is getting brighter. Okay, you guys, so tonight we're gonna be talking about my origin story. I get a lot of comments from people, especially on Instagram, people asking like why it is I've been able to have so many strange experiences, or is there like a way for them to increase the chances of them having like a strange experience? And I kind of just like want to get out there kind of my view as to why I have so many experiences, because it is weird. It is weird. All right, you guys, so grab yourself something to drink, maybe a delicious little treat, relax, get comfy, get cozy, because tonight we're talking about where everything began for me. Number one, I think it's kind of a family thing. Different mug, different day. I might look a little different than I did, or I think the thumbnail and maybe the intro of this video, I might look a little different, and that's because it's a different day. I tried to replicate my makeup as close as I could and my hair as close as I could without spending hours on it. Basically, I ended up losing a bunch of footage, and I had a bunch of issues with my sound. During my first attempt of filming the Slumber Party Sunday, the reason why I have to start all over, I had to scrap that video almost in its entirety because like right in the middle of the video, like the juicy bits of the video, all of my audio started messing up and it sounded like I was underwater and then it sounded like I was muffled. And I don't know what is happening because it was totally fine in the beginning and it was totally fine at the end, but just in like the middle, there was for some reason weird muddled sound. And then on top of that, another weird thing was my ring light was going out of control. Like I think about 5 or 6 times I stop what I'm saying to pay attention to my ring light because it's just like blowing up, like it's just getting brighter and brighter. And I keep saying like, oh my God, is it just me or is my ring light getting brighter? And so I said it like 8 million times in that video because the light kept fluctuating. And then on top of that, my sound was all messed up and I was just spending a ridiculous amount of time trying to salvage it so that I could get it out, not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before, I think, which is fine. I really wanted to have like a week where I had Halloween and my Slumber Party Sunday videos. That is like an achievement unlocked for me type of thing. Number 1, lineage. Today, we're going to be talking about my Hispanic side, which is my Mama Moon's side, my grandmother, Mama Moon's mom. My grandmother on my mom's side, she was a tiny yet mighty, fierce little firecracker, basically. She was just an extremely compassionate woman. She had a green thumb galore. She was extremely gifted with plants, extremely gifted with animals, and I feel like a characteristic that we can all, my entire family, agree upon is that she was a devout Catholic. Devout. And she was extremely dedicated to the Virgin Mary. With that being said, my grandma, wherever you are, Grandma, I'm not trying to be blasphemous here because my grandmother wasn't really into witchcraft, brujas, curanderas, like that really wasn't something that she supported. She was a very Catholic woman, a proud Catholic woman. I'm gonna be saying something that I think she would be mildly offended by. So please don't judge me. I'm not here to offend anyone as well. I believe that everyone has the right to practice their own religion as long as they're not hurting anyone. Like you do you, I do me, that's that. So though she was a devout Catholic, she was still Hispanic. And I feel like any of my Hispanic, Latina, like watchers, any of y'all, if you come from that background or grew up with that culture, then you're probably fully aware that there is a lot of superstition. There is a lot of like talk of ojo. There's brujas, there's healers. And with my family, we leaned more towards like curandera type, which is like the healer type. And my grandma had that influence in her because that's kind of like what she was raised with. So if you look at my mom's mom and then her mother and then her mother, they were deep into the roots of a mixture of healing and religion, like combining that, which I think if you look at witchcraft, I think that's what it is. I think you can make your craft your own. My grandmother unintentionally, in my opinion, was performing witchcraft while being a Catholic, which wherever you are, Grandma, I'm not trying to be rude. My grandma had this glorious altar completely dedicated to the Virgin Mary. She had this huge Virgin Mary statue. She had rosaries all over it. She actually made several trips to the Vatican, I believe, I'm pretty sure, and she got like holy water from the Pope and shit, and she got rosaries that were, I think, blessed by the Pope, and she was also a rosary maker. I forgot what their names are called, but she would make rosaries and like have the father bless them and stuff. Like she was very, very lovely and very devout, and her altar was probably one of my favorite things that I enjoyed seeing and like sneaking a peek by, you know, because when you're a little kid, like the kids are either outside basically away from the adults. The kids are anywhere that the adults aren't. And my grandmother's altar was in her bedroom, and it was like this like private special space. And we were only brought there to the back, like in front of her altar, if she was going to bless us with some holy water. Where she would basically like douse us with holy water, trying to like protect us and remove any bad energy, which, you know, super sweet. It was always such a magical feeling because you're this little kid, and my grandmother, she would have you kneel. And so I would kneel on her old creaky wooden floors, right, in her bedroom. Like I remember, I can literally hear the creaking of her floorboards. It was so specific. You would kneel down, and on her altar, there were these tea lights that were held inside of these really gorgeous blood red glass jars, and they were super ornate. I actually ended up going on eBay and getting some of my own for my own altar because it reminds me of my grandma so much. She would light these tea lights to protect all of her grandchildren, and she would pray to the Virgin Mary and light a candle, and then this like gorgeous red would just be cast along the room, and you would watch like the shadows moving with the little tea light dancing, and then you would like sit there and close your eyes, and she would anoint you with holy water. It was just such a ritualistic type of process, and it was the feeling of like warmth and love would just wash over you every time. Like you knew your grandmother's love was so strong, you were protected, you know? I miss both of my grandmas quite a bit, so talking about this is nice. As you can see, that's a little witchy, it's a little ritualistic. Definitely feel like these proclivity towards rituals, this desire to execute these rituals, ended up ingraining itself in my mother as well. So I think I come from a family that we naturally gravitate and are inclined towards ritualistic ceremonies, and just spirituality has been taught to us. It is in us. However, there's a caveat to that, and I will talk about that later. But that caveat basically is I was not raised with religion. So yes, I had these spiritual instances with my grandma. I did not believe what she believed, and nor was I raised with religion. My mom made it a point to raise me without religion. My dad and my mom made it a point to raise me without religion. They felt that when I came of age, I would make up my own mind and discover whatever spirituality I was interested in with an unbiased kind of lens, which I really appreciate, and I do think that is a component to me being more open to the bizarre, because I don't have these preconceived notions since childhood that were instilled in me due to others. But anyways, so like I was saying, on my mom's side, the women on my mom's side were just naturally drawn to these ritualistic ceremonies and spirituality as a whole. And so me being not religious and having these moments with my grandmother where she's blessing me and stuff, like I could feel the energy, you know what I mean? I could feel the love, I could feel the intent, the whole process, like even the red glass and the candles and the giant Mary statue, like that sense, that presence. It's just, it's magical. Like no matter what religious belief you are, no matter what you believe in, moments like that, they are magic. Like it's a spiritual experience, right? More instances with my grandmother and my mom. Like I remember one time I kept getting sick. I was having issues kind of like with my education and like school and all this stuff, but mostly my body was like just getting the shit kicked out of it. And my mom was convinced that someone around me had given me ojo, the evil eye. And I've had a lot of kind of like shitty friends in my life. I'm very lucky, and I have a really great friend, but I wouldn't say I have a lot of friends. But I've had some issues with people who were very close to me not wanting the best for me. And basically you have to get rid of people like that in your life. You don't need someone in your life who doesn't want the best for you. My mom was convinced that someone close to me had been kind of oozing some not so good vibes, either intentionally or unintentionally. And I think a lot of negativity, a lot of ojo, a lot of evil eye, it is unintentional. I don't think a lot of people out there are like, I'm gonna devote my time, I'm gonna devote my energy into making your life trash. Like, I don't think people are outwardly doing it. I think it's unintentional envy, jealousy, anger, animosity, just something. So I'd been having a lot of issues, and my mom was like, there's gotta be something up. So she called my grandma. My grandma was like, let's perform an evil eye removing ritual, basically. So my grandmother comes over, and my mom and her pick an egg. My grandma comes over with some eggs, and my mom and her pick an egg or two. They decided, I think, to do just one, and then like if there was a lot, they were gonna do a second one. But I remember they had me lie still on a bed, and the two of them had this like cold egg, right? This cold refrigerated egg. And they just rolled that egg like all over my body, down my arms, down my legs, everywhere. And they chanted, they prayed. And I mean, it was some witchy ass shit, man. Like I know my grandma's like, I wasn't a witch. But I'm over here to say, Grandma, you were pretty witchy. I love you, but that was some witchy ass shit. So they rolled the egg, my grandmother prayed, my mom chanted, and basically what they did was, it's believed that the egg will act as like a host, basically another host for the energy to remove itself off of me and feed onto the egg. The egg sucks up the negativity and all that jazz. They would use Palo Santo to like smoke cleanse me. Afterwards, I had to get a glass bowl and take the egg that sucked up all the evil energy and get on the floor, and I cracked the egg and put it into the bowl. And they told me that, you know, it looked just like a regular egg. It was just like a normal fucking egg. So I crack it, I put it in the bowl, and they said that I had to slide it under my bed and fall asleep with it under my bed and like sleep for the whole night with it under my bed. And in the morning, my grandma was going to come back and they were going to read the egg. Depending on what the egg looked like, there could be other things going on. It could be like obstacles that I'm implementing on myself. It could be evil eye. It could be all sorts of things. I remember it being late at night and I'm like, it's time to put my egg. Like, it's time to put my egg in my bowl and slide it under my bed. So I cracked it, I put it in the bowl. It looked totally normal. Like, there wasn't anything weird. It was just a fucking egg. I put it under my bed and then I jumped back into bed and I let myself drift to sleep. When I say that was a hard night, it was a hard freaking night. I remember tossing and turning. I remember I had crazy dreams that I couldn't remember when I woke up, which is weird for me. I'm very good at recollecting my dreams. I woke up drenched in sweat. And I remember while I was like tossing and turning, I woke up for a little bit and I remember my legs were like achy, like I'd had a fever. When morning came, my mom knocked on the door, got me up. I was drenched. I had just soaked the bed in sweat. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, do you have a fever? And she checked me and I didn't have a fever. She was like, maybe you broke a fever last night or something. And then she was like, oh shit, it's the egg, you know? I felt totally normal. I felt totally normal the day before, but in the middle of the night, it was like something was, like I was getting over something. It was like I was getting over a cold. She was like, I garum fucking tea. Like, you had and I'm like, oh, whatever, mom. She's like, okay, if you don't believe me, get the egg. Like, get the egg, let's look at it. I get down on the floor, I see the glass bowl, and I grab it, and she was like, slide it gently, you know, because she didn't want me to mess anything up. I slide it very slowly, and I pull it out, and what the fuck, you guys? It was so weird. So my grandma ends up coming over and my mom is like, I told you it was the evil eye. My grandma looked at it for 1 second and she was like, That's it. Like, someone gave you ojo. And she was like, someone gave you ojo bad. I think there's different ways you can tell that it's ojo, but basically the egg elongated, like the yellow of the egg, it like elongated to where it looked like the shape of an eye. Just stretched out, but like this point, like an eye. You know what I mean? Am I making sense? So it was no longer a circle. It like, I'm not making any sense. But basically the egg, the yolk, the yellow of the egg looked like an eye, but then all of the white, what is that called? All of the white stuff. I don't know what it's called, but all of the white of the egg had turned into this spider web looking shit. It had turned into this wispy white spider web looking thing. It almost looked cooked, like it had cooked under the bed, and it had sprawled out to the sides of the bowl, and it was gross. Like, it looked like tendrils, long spider web tendrils. And my grandma, she basically gave me a reading. I'm not gonna get into it. If you lifted the bowl and looked under the bowl, it was super thick and milky, and there were so many spider web tendrils that had extended out. You could barely see the shape of the yolk on the top. It was insane, and it literally looked like it had crawled up the bowl. So all of that to say, that was my grandma. My grandma was, yes, like super Catholic, super devout, but she instilled rituals, she instilled spirituality, she had these practices that were passed down to her through her Hispanic culture, and it was then passed down to me and passed down to my mom. Also was extremely gifted with intuition, instincts, and she would always say, like, my instincts, my gut, my instincts. She didn't really have another term for it, you know? But I think if she had been more open to looking into the possibility of explanations for these gifts, I just think that she was so nervous to look out for outside resources that she didn't really learn what her gifts may have been. However, she did have 3 daughters. The 3 daughters grew up in a different generation, and they did look up their gifts, and so they do have names for their gifts. So now we're going to talk about the 3 sisters. And 3 sisters, that is going to be my mother, the oldest, my Thea, which is the middle, and my other Thea, which would be the youngest. I'm going to talk about them in backwards order, so we're going to talk about the youngest first. This is Valentine from the future. I just got done telling my lineage story, and as I finished, I decided that I definitely want to do a trigger warning. Just a warning. A warning. A big, bright, bold warning. Number 1, this is not intended for children. I want to get that out there. If there is a child with you, I probably wouldn't watch this video with them. Number 2, if you are triggered by violence, gore, SA, and death, I don't know how else to say that, don't watch this. I will insert this clip probably at around the time that you shouldn't continue watching. I didn't realize that, I realized they were heavy, but I don't think I realized how heavy they were gonna be, kind of like back to back. So yes, definitely some trigger warnings, you guys. Enjoy? I don't think it's appropriate to say enjoy. So anyways, just, yeah, goodbye. Let's go ahead and talk about the youngest, and that is going to be Thea. I'll call her Thea Taurus. My little Taurus Thea. She was adorable, and she would probably hate hearing me call her adorable. She always wanted to be, she was like a chihuahua, like their bark was a lot bigger than their bite. My Taurus Thea, she is no longer with us, but a little bit about her. She was a teeny tiny little lady, like I was saying. She was also a little bit vain. She would agree though. She had the most beautiful jet black, silky smooth, long stick straight hair I've ever seen. And it was so thick and so shiny. She had gorgeous, gorgeous hair and really long eyelashes. I can see her face perfectly. And she had just like, she was just a beautiful woman, an extremely hard worker. And she was super feisty. Like, she was very feisty. She always had had some little remark, some little quip, like something snarky to say. If she could call you out on your shit, she would not waste a second to call you out and humble you. Of all the sisters, she had the most attitude jam-packed into her. However, she was also the most quiet and the most reserved. So she was always watching, always listening, and then whenever there was an opportunity, she would be like, bah, feist. If there was like any advice that I needed, I could always count on her on giving me advice to just persevere. She was such a determined person and she really never gave up. She just embodies, at least in my memory, strength and perseverance. Her story is going to be a lot more brief than the rest of them. She was very reserved. I know for a fact that she did practice witchcraft. She did have her own craft and she wasn't like hiding it by any means. She would talk occasionally about it, but not in much depth. She was just very personal. Like she just felt it was like her personal craft and that's more than okay. And so she just didn't blast it. Like she would never be on here talking about it, that's for sure. She just didn't volunteer information. You had to ask the right questions to get anything out of her. My family never really tried to pry any information about her craft. Like the sisters kind of let that be. She was especially drawn towards crystals. She did a lot of crystal grids, crystal mapping, crystal familiars, that type of thing. Even in her last days, she spent the entire time figuring out which one of her crystal familiars would go with different family members best and what suited us best. There were suggestions here and there about her intuition and her gift of foresight, but nothing was outright said, not like my other aunt or my mother. We're not really sure what she was gifted with. We just don't really know the specifics. So next we're going to talk about Thea the Capricorn. My poor mom, the little fish, is surrounded by two stubborn earth signs. So my Thea the Capricorn, she is the middle child and she was not like my Thea Taurus. She is very loud, very bright. Like if you want someone who kind of like bright, life of the party, real loud laughter, they all had a very loud laugh. If you ever meet me in person or talk to me in person, you'll be like, damn, Valentine, you laugh super loud. I don't hold a candle to those sisters, man. My laugh is not nearly as loud as theirs. My Thea the Capricorn, super optimistic, super charismatic, whereas my previous, the youngest Thea, the youngest aunt, she had, you know, the quiet, reserved, kind of like witty, snarky little quips, you know, that would make you laugh and be like, haha, ow, but haha. This Thea is more like slapstick comedy. She's a lot more blunt with her humor. She also had a strong gift of intuition, and the best way for me to describe it would be to say that she was clairvoyant. There's a bunch of different clairs out there, if you guys didn't know. There's clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizant, like there's just so many different kinds. They're all basically a sixth sense. What gifts us the ability to peek beyond the veil? Clairvoyance, I think it's a French word and it means clear vision. Clairvoyance is when you can see events that are about to happen before they happen. For some people, it's like a dream. Some people, it is like their waking reality, like they actually like live it out. Some people will see snippets of it bleed into their reality. Like it's different for everyone. My aunt definitely has clairvoyance, and some of the shit that happened to her is like honestly absolutely terrifying, and I'm kind of glad that I don't have it. It was a little bit chaotic for her. My Thea is very, very religious. She definitely follows in my grandmother's footsteps. I don't think she's Catholic. I think she's Christian or something like that, but she views it as the devil's work. So she does not practice witchcraft. She's not interested in witchcraft. She thinks it's evil. She's she's vocal about that, which is fine. You do you. I'm merely saying this because she rejected her gifts, basically. She didn't try to like hone it, nothing like that. Her gifts, I think they're kind of numb now, they're kind of void now, but back in the day, they only really seemed to kick in whenever she seemed to be in danger or something threatening was nearby or about to happen. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about her most famous event of clairvoyance, just to give you guys a picture of what it's like. It can be scary as shit. But after this day, she really had to ask herself, what was that? Like, did I just hallucinate? Like, she had to really sit with herself and come to terms with the fact that she does have strong intuition, and her intuition takes the form of clairvoyance. She had moments after this story that I'm about to tell you as well that confirmed that it was a reoccurring thing. It wasn't just like a one-time thing, because some people will have that. About 40 years ago, my aunt was in college, and while she was in college, she had a life-threatening, terrifying event that really stirred up her clairvoyance to save her life. While she was in college, she had made some really good friends with these two girls. It was a weekend, and I think they were out like going to a mall or shopping or something like that. There's this long road near the college that she went to that they were kind of just cruising on, having a good time. There wasn't a lot of stoplights out there, nothing. It was just like a road that people went to cruise, because back then there really wasn't a lot going on in these small towns in Texas that I'm from. I think she'd said that they picked up some Cokes, like soda and stuff like that, and got in her friend's old car and just kind of went for a cruise. They were all smoking cigarettes back then. That was kind of what you did. So they were just smoking their cigarettes, listening to music, cruising with a classic soda. Her friend was driving and her other friend was in the back seat. Thea was in the front passenger seat. While they're driving, they're just giggling, they're talking about their classes, they're talking about their professors, homework, exams, all that stuff. She's just having a good time with her girlfriends, right? It's just a nice day cruising with the girls. It was just existing in her day-to-day, when suddenly, while they're driving, while they're laughing, she gets this like weird body sensation. Felt like it washed over her. She said they felt like a tingling sensation that just kind of went from her head down to her toes. And she thought, ooh, you know, like that's a little weird. She kind of shrugged it off. There's nothing really happening. So she's looking out the window, she's smoking a cigarette, and her friend is talking about something behind her. And she makes a joke, and my Thea laughs super hard. And she turns to look at her friend to comment on the joke. The girl is talking, and so my Thea looks at her and is listening to her talk. And it's slowly starting to sink in. Like she said, it wasn't off the bat. Like it was slowly starting to sink in that she's looking at her friend, and her friend is covered in blood. Absolutely covered in blood. Head to toe, just blood. But she's just talking like normal. She's just like, oh yeah, you know, my professor, he's totally stupid, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I don't know what she was saying, but she's talking, she's smoking, she's got her drink, and she's just like, yeah, this is a crazy semester. And she's just covered in blood, specifically around her head area. So my Thea is like, what the fuck? So while she's looking at her, she turns away real quick. And she's kind of like, is that real? You know, she takes a look back. And when she looks back, her friend is totally normal. Totally normal. Okay, that was weird. And she was like, maybe I saw something. Because while I'm describing it, it sounds long. But she said it was like super fast. Super fast. She just turned, looked. Her friend was talking. And while she was turning away, she was like, wait a minute, she's covered in blood. She turns back. No longer covered in blood. She brushes it off. They continue driving. A couple seconds later, it's not like a lot longer later, like a couple minutes later, my Thea's kind of still weirded out. She still has this body feeling, and she keeps looking back at her friend to see if she's like bleeding or covered in blood again. She's like, I guess it was just light or something weird with my eyes. I don't know. She rationalizes it. And while she's talking, her other friend starts talking, and my Thea starts laughing. She starts easing up. She's getting back back into the conversation again. And the moment she starts easing back into the conversation again, like her guard is being put back down. She's not on high alert, like who else is bloody? She's getting swept away. She looks over to her friend in the driver's seat. And now this time, the friend in the driver's seat, she can hear her talking and she can see that they're driving. Her friend in the driver's seat is slumped over the steering wheel, completely not moving. And she's also covered in blood and her eyes are closed. And she can hear her friend talking. So she knows that like that's not her, and she can see that they're driving. So she starts panicking, covers her head like this because she doesn't want her friends to think she's like crazy and like freaking out or something. But so she starts freaking out. When she covers her head like this, she looks down, and when she looks down, that's when she sees that she is also covered in blood. Her lap, her hands, everything is just blood, blood, blood. And that's when she looks back, and now her friend is still talking as well, but she's covered in blood. Her other friend is slumped over. Once she looked down and registered that they were all covered, suddenly she just knew that that was a vision. And the moment her brain said this is a vision, she snapped back to normal. Her friends are totally fine. And she sees that up ahead, there's a light that was red, like the blood, she said. It turned green. So they were just gonna keep driving through. And my Thea said that that is when she just everything kind of like fit together. She just started screaming, stop the car, stop the car, stop the car. My Thea looks at her dead in the eye and is just like, stop the fucking car. Her friend does. Her friend slams on the brakes. And the moment they stop the car, they stop it like right before the light. They see this truck just barrel through going like 100 miles per hour. It was swerving. It was out of control. It ran its red light. Huge like Texas heavy duty type of trucks. My aunt said that in that moment, all of them just got the chills because they just realized that they would have been hit. She didn't tell them what she saw. She didn't want to divulge any part of herself like that. So that is my Thea's story of clairvoyance. So as you can see from the story, as you can hear from the story, I should say, it was like she was living that reality, but it was like bleeding in to her actual reality. And so it was really hard for her to differentiate what was going on, what was real, what wasn't real. And she said that it was just, she felt crazy. She felt like there was something wrong with her. And then afterwards, like the trauma of seeing that much gore and like people that she's friends with, it was very traumatic for her. The one was very quiet, reserved, did have intuition, worked with crystals a lot, had her own practice, her own witchcraft practice. And then the middle one had a strong, very intense, powerful gift that was terrifying and overwhelming. She didn't want anything to do with it. And then there is my mother, the oldest daughter, Mama Moon. So, Mama Moon. Let's talk about Mama Moon. My mother, she's crazy. she's not crazy, just like the stuff that has happened to my mom is absolutely fucking wild. I've said this before, but if you haven't seen my other videos, the sheer amount of strange things that have happened to Mama Moon is just extraordinary. Her intuition is extraordinary. Her gifts are extraordinary. Like the amount of times she's predicted things to happen, like the amount of times she's listened to her gut and it's like either saved our car, saved our house, sold our car. Managing to be at the right moment at the right time, or her saying something and us not listening to her intuition, and then something happens. That happened a lot growing up, and it's just kind of like, okay, you listen to her guts. Like, you have to listen to these instincts because things will work out better if you do. They're my Piscean mother, the little Pisces, the little fish who just cannot help but peek beyond the veil whenever they can. If you're a Pisces, let me know, because a lot of Pisces are just naturally inclined to be gifted with pretty strong intuition, pretty strong gut instincts. They are a water sign. Most water signs tend to be naturally gifted with intuition. It comes a bit easier for them. I'd say all signs have the ability, but water signs are kind of already 1 foot into the 1 foot into the water, 1 foot on land type of thing. Or maybe all feet just plunging into the water, which is exactly what my mom did. My mom is definitely not reserved like my first aunt, and she is not religious like my second aunt. With those characteristics out of the way, Mama Moon was free and liberated to jump or dive headfirst into, why do I have this intuition? How can I enhance it? What is witchcraft? And my mom dove deep, and she dove hard, and she dove far. She went deep, deep into it. And I think in turn that nurtured her gifts and made them a lot stronger. Like I was saying, there's a bunch of clairs out there. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance. My mom, I would say, is gifted with clairsentience. Clairsentience, what that is being able to feel the energy, knowing what's going to happen based off of the energy. My mom just knows things are going to happen. She gets vibrations, she gets vibes, she can read energy. Like it kind of just comes to her. So if she has an instinct, she knows exactly what that instinct is correlated to. For the most part, sometimes it's not that clear. She's not seeing visions, she's not hearing things, she's feeling it with her body, full body experience. I do think that she has a bit of clairvoyance as well, considering that she's had a lot of dreams that have come true. But I think the strongest one for her is feeling the energy, feeling the vibrations, reading it, and just knowing. So with a mom who has clairsentience, when I say she has taught me how to trust my gut and my instincts, I can't emphasize that enough. And I think that is a huge, huge component to me being able to see, experience, hear, whatever, all of the weird shit that I have. A brief little story as an example is, for some reason, scorpions love me. Scorpions definitely look at me and are like, that's the kind of bitch I want to sting. Right there. That one. She's perfect. I don't know what it is about me that draws scorpions to me. As a child, you know, we grew up in the middle of nowhere, out in the boonies, out in the country. So a lot of scorpions are out in the country, and a lot of scorpions will take refuge inside your house during the winter. Even not during winter time. For some fucking reason, I was just stung all the time as a child. My mom never stung. My dad stung about maybe once or twice. My brother stung maybe once or twice. I was stung probably about 12 fucking times, like at least once a year. I wasn't doing anything that would suggest that I was near scorpions more so than the rest of my family members. I would lay down on the sofa and I would grab a throw blanket and I would put it on me. There would happen to be multiple scorpions inside the blanket, and they would just start stinging. And as I pushed the blanket off of me, they continued to sting all the way down to my toes. That was traumatizing. I was super little when that happened, like 7. I would take a bath and we had like little jets in the bathtub that blew like bubbles. I remember one time I had a bubble bath going. There was a scorpion with babies on its back inside of the jet. So when I turned the jet on, it shot out a scorpion full of babies and it stung the shit out of me. For some reason, I got stung a lot. Roll over in my bed, there'd be a scorpion in my bed. Even to this day, my honey buns and I, at our last apartment, I hopped into bed and I was just on my phone, chilling in our apartment. We're in the middle of town. Like, we're basically downtown in the town that we live in. There was a fucking scorpion in the bed and it fucking stung the shit out of me. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I'm 32 years old and I'm still just attracting fucking scorpions. Knock on wood. When I was younger, my mom took me aside because she was angry that I was getting stung so many times. I think I was 7. I think it was right after the blanket incident where I got stung all down my body. I had about 6 stings. She was kind of just over it. Like, she was over me getting stung all the time. And so very aggressively, she pulled me aside. She's like pointing at me because my mom's like, you know, I'm very aggressive mother. She's like, I'm sick and tired of you getting stung tongue all the time as if it's my fault. Basically tells me that I can sense danger or I can sense scorpions and that I'm gonna have to just accept that scorpions are in our house. I'm gonna have to accept that they exist. Scorpions have just as much a right to exist in this world as I do, is what she told me. That I needed to develop my instincts and that I had the power to know that they were there if I wanted to. And she was like, you know, this is your home, just like it's theirs, but if you don't want to be stung so much, you have to learn how to sense them. I remember being like, whatever, you're crazy. Like I was just like, nah, dude, I'm not buying into that witchy ass woo-woo mom. I had told myself, you know, I can do this. Like I didn't let her know that, but I told myself privately, like, I can sense them. I know I can sense them. If I try hard enough, I can sense them. One night, I remember it was around Christmas time. It was winter, and there was this really, really long hallway right outside my bedroom door. It was always really, really dark. I would try to run through the hall as quickly as I could to get to the living room or the kitchen or something. It was dark, and I was gonna go. And I remember I took a couple of steps. I lifted my leg up to put my foot down. And I just got this feeling, I just got this weird feeling. It was almost like a voice, which makes me sound crazy, but it was almost like a voice and it said, don't. And I'm like, don't. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, don't put my foot down. I pieced it together. So I'm standing there with my foot up in the air and I'm like, where's the fucking light? So I reach over and I grab the light switch and I turn it on. I move my foot away and I look down and sure enough, there's a scorpion with his stingers straight up waiting for me to put my fucking foot down, that little shitter. I remember I was just like, I fucking did it. And I got so excited and I just hopped over the scorpion and ran down the hall and I was like, Mom, I sensed the scorpion. That's just an example of how I was raised. That's a little snippet of Mama Moon and kind of teaching me how to trust my instincts. She has a lot of wild stories and honestly, not a lot of them. I don't feel like a lot of them are appropriate for YouTube. The one that I would like to share with you guys, I really don't feel like is very appropriate for YouTube, but I'm going to try to make it a little, I'm not going to go into as much detail, but I do want to put a trigger warning just in case you are sensitive to SA, abuse, or violence or anything like that. I don't want to trigger you. So trigger warning, if you are still watching, please be warned. This story is pretty violent, but I think I'm gonna be able to water it down a bit, but it's still gonna be mentioned. So let's begin. One of the stories that has always stuck out to me that my mom has told me throughout the years, when my mom was able to feel an SA and murder that happened down the street from her when she was living by herself. She was a single mom to my brother. My brother was about 3 or 4 at the time. It was just the two of them, and I can't imagine how terrified my mom was. I also want to share these stories that I'm sharing, like my aunt's story and how traumatic it was for her, and then now my mom's story and how traumatic it was for her, because I think a lot of people are like, wow, I wish I could had all these things and these experiences are crazy. But I mean, it comes, it's not always fun. Usually these things kick in during really hard life moments and scary moments, and after it happens, you just kind of sit with that, what was that? What if I hadn't listened to it? And then it just you kind of spiral, it's hard. Anyways, let's continue. Let's talk about Mama Moon. She was in her 20s. It was just her and my brother, who was 4 at the time, or 3 or 4 at the time, and they lived in this really old early 1900s house in an old German town. She was kind of close to the downtown area. One night she'd put my brother to sleep and she was getting ready to go to bed. As she was drifting asleep, she started having where she wasn't in her reality, but she wouldn't really call it a dream. She wouldn't call it a vision because it wasn't like she was seeing with her third eye. It wasn't anything like that. Her reality kind of shifted and she was able to go into almost like a dream-like state, which I think is what opened her to be able to experience this, because this was before she'd really tried to practice her intuition. Basically, my mom went into this like dream-like kind of reality shift kind of state. She was able to feel everything out, like everything that was happening. She was able to feel herself, which is why I call it clairsentience. She wasn't seeing it. She wasn't thinking it. She wasn't hearing it. It was physically happening to her. That's how she felt. She felt like she was the one being attacked. She did not realize at the time that it was not a warning for her. She took it as a warning for her that she needed to be on guard. She had no idea that it was happening to a woman down the road from her. My mom took it as like, you know, this is a warning for you. Everything that had ever happened to my mom prior typically revolved around my mom and my mom's well-being. The more she got into her practice and the more she kind of developed her intuition, the more she was able to apply it to the people around her. And I think this was just like a fluke incident where she happened to go into a state, like a trance or something, and allowed herself to be open to something happening within a close proximity. It scared the crap out of my mom. She genuinely thought it was a warning that she was going to have an attack on her. While my mom was sleeping or dreaming or in a trance, she felt everything that was happening to this poor woman down the road, including, you know, the attack, also how she was bound, just a bunch of gory details like that I don't want to go into. My mom lived it out and she couldn't see her attacker, she couldn't hear her attacker, but she was living it. While she was in this state and while it was happening to her, she said she kept saying, "Let me see your face, let me see your face." And then it turned into, "If only I could see your face, like I just want to see your face, I just want to see your face." And my mom said later on she doesn't know if that was what the victim was thinking, like maybe the victim thought she was going to survive and maybe she could report it. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. My mom then woke up from the trance in a cold sweat, absolutely convinced that this was like a warning for her to take heed that someone was maybe lurking outside of her house or something like that. So she said she got up, she double checked all the doors, double checked the windows, she checked on my brother. She then ended up moving my brother to her bedroom, barricaded themselves in her bedroom, and then she went back to sleep again. She said that the moment her head hit the pillow, she went back into that trance state, and she said she was right there reliving the feeling, the sensation all over again. And she just kept telling herself, "If I could just see your face, if I could just see your face." Next thing she knows, she was woken up by her phone, the house phone ringing. This was back when we had landlines. She picked up the phone and the phone happened to be my Thea with the clairvoyance, like the visions. My Thea was like, "Are you okay? What's happening? Like, tell me what's going on," because the sisters, they were all very linked with one another, but especially those two. You know, her voice is like quivering and she tells my Thea, like, "I think I'm gonna get attacked." She tells my Thea everything that's happening, and my Thea was like, "I saw it." She was like, "I saw you in like blackness and you were laying there and you were being bound. I just kept hearing you." Ugh, I have the chills. She was like, "I just kept hearing you cry out, 'Show me your face, show me your face.'" And my mom started freaking out and she was like, "That's what I was saying over and over and over, like in the trance. I kept saying, 'Let me see your face.'" My aunt was like, "I'm on my way over." She heads over to the house. The moment she gets there, my mom lets her in and then they slam the door shut. They end up staying up pretty late into the night, and then finally my mom was like, "I'm gonna try to get some sleep." My Thea ended up sleeping in the living room with like one eye open, man. Not a night full of rest. After that, they woke up in the morning not knowing what just happened, and then later on in the day it was reported that a woman was found by a family member down the road from my mom's house in her neighborhood, and I'm talking real close to my mom's house. More information was exposed during the weeks that followed the event. My mom and my aunt ended up having to meet up and talk about it because they were absolutely blown away, because the information that was revealed later on in the paper was how she was bound and and it was exactly how my Thea saw my mom bound, and it was exactly where my mom said she was bound. There was other details that my mom knew as well that my Thea also knew. It lined up perfectly with her attack. My mom really beat herself up after that. Like, she felt like she could have called the police, like she could have done something, and maybe she would have saved that woman's life. Like, maybe if like a cop car came to my mom's house, it would have scared the guy away or something. She never once thought, oh, this isn't gonna happen to me. Like, oh, this is happening to someone right now down the road from me. Yeah. That was a heavy story. I'm sorry. I feel like this is definitely not a light slumber party Sunday. That is my mom's story of her clairsentience, my Thea's story of her clairvoyance, my other Thea who's no longer with us, how she was extremely reserved but still intuitive and still drawn to witchcraft and specifically crystals, my grandmother and her rituals. Then a snippet into what I would say my biggest gift, which is clairaudience. I definitely hear shit. So that is it for part 1 of my roots, the women that I came from. I think they have a lot to do with my gifts. I don't really like calling it that to myself. It makes me sound stupid. Like I'm in some fucking fantasy movie or something, like super dorky. I'm not over here like, I'm good. I hope that was, I don't want to say enjoyable because they were really, really dark. Both of them were pretty dark. That is part 1 to my spooky background and a huge chunk of what I think allowed me to have really strange experiences. My roots, you know? Let me know if you're excited to get back into the Slumber Party Sundays. I really hope you are. Part 2 will be coming next weekend, and part 2 will be talking about my childhood homes, both of them. Oof, my childhood homes. Those are a bit spookier. This was more like, ooh, dark, depressing. The next ones are definitely more spooky, more lighthearted, I would say. Sorry for the heaviness, you guys. I thought it would be enjoyable and like crazy story time, but then as I was talking about it, I feel kind of heavy now and kind of sad. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day. So many of y'all are like, I'm glad to see you posting consistently, ghoul. And I'm like, thanks. If it's nighttime, I hope I didn't give y'all the heebie-jeebies, or maybe I do hope I gave y'all the heebie-jeebies. I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful night, you guys. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Goodbye, guys.